Peace fight, final round, and this time it's the knights battle. An ultra short recap of the earlier videos is that knights love an outpost, so let's have an even keener eye on that in this video. Let's jump into the middle of a game that I played with the black pieces. White has just played rook c1, and for us to play some sound positional chess, we'll follow the method that we have been practicing the past videos with the 3 steps in the peace fight method. First step is to examine which kind of minor pieces are on the board. Black has 2 knights and a dark squared bishop, while white also has 2 knights and a dark squared bishop. Noticing that his dark squared has relevance to the second step, which is the pawn structure, where we notice that white has all his pawns on dark squares, meaning we can definitely color that bishop red, meaning that it's kind of weak. Additionally, we also see that this pawn structure leaves an e4 square sort of weak here, because the pawns cannot cover that square anymore and only can be covered by pieces, and the same can be said about the square on c4. And these 2 squares are sort of relevant for us because we have knights, and we know that knights love outpost. Does white have similar? I mean, he has this e5 square, which is nice, but it can actually be covered by pawn, so it's not actually that weak. Then we have step 3 in the peace fight method, which is to look at different exchanges that can happen of the minor pieces. It's first of all to anticipate what the future could be, but also isolate so we might win the peace fight. And one isolation could be that bishop takes c3, because if we take that, then we can even easier go into those weak squares with our knights. And white's bishop can become even weaker because it has less teammates to play along with. Therefore, moving the knight suggests itself. However, that knight also is out of action, and now black has more access to those weak squares with the knights. And similar argument before, as when we exchange those bishops, we will isolate the power of the knights even more here, ultimately leading to the peace fight between the knights. And now we have that juicy square on e4. Which I would really love to jump into now. But can we do that? Because white is actually threatening a5 with the queen here. But a horrible move would be to play b6 here, because that would leave a juicy square for white here for either the knight or the rook. So that would be horrible. But I really would like a knight up there, as we spoke about. So can we? Then I would always calculate to see what would happen. Like, the only thing I'm afraid of is that queen takes a5. Then I would look at some force variations. Keep that in mind, force variations, always nice to look at. Rook takes c1 for instance here, rook takes back, and then queen a3 to threaten the rook, but also to threaten e3. And that looks fantastic. So white cannot take an a5. So my opponent settled for queen b2 here, of which we can kick his knight away from that nice square he had, and move our knight into position, into the direction of that juicy square on c4. I think if we take a breather here and consider the knight's battle in the peace fight, I think we could say that black really settled in and won. Here, white was trying to exchange some rooks to relieve the pressure, but we can use that juicy square for our rook. And that's one of the genius thing about an outpost, is that we can build up behind it. That's kind of what outpost means all along. So he was also exchanging that. And after that, he tried to exchange a knight and possibly try to blockade the position. That's when I knew I had to be a little more precise in my calculations. So these things are a little more forced. I took the knight first, he took back, and then I saw something cute. First, knight f5, he has to move, and then I saw the game's first beauty move. Queen b4. Oh, I was so proud when I found that move. The idea is that you have to take it. When pawn takes back, those pawns are so fast that after pawn takes knight, these 2 pawns cannot be stopped by the knight. We'll move the c pawn first, that's important, otherwise they could be stopped. And then the b pawn. And my opponent resigned. So that's it from the peace fight course. I hope you learned a lot here, and I hope that you can use it in your games as I could in so many of my games. I kind of think that's why I beat grandmasters at times. It's because I tend to anticipate this peace fight a little earlier than my opponents do. Probably we'll see some more examples of this peace fight in the later videos. And let's chat in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.